Woods Lake have been a lover's point ever since the day it opened, over centuries ago. It's not just a local who feels it either. Tourists come from every direction. Families spend afternoon here, making the kind of memories they'll carry home and photograph. And couples still walk the white bridge every evening, holding hands the way people have here since before any of us were born. Ask most of them why this particular spot, out of every pretty corner of the city, and they won't have much of an answer beyond. It just feels right here. Most of them have no idea there's a reason for that feeling. Most of them have never heard the story of the two people this lake actually belongs to first.
My name's Ian. I've done a lot of odd security work in my time. A jewelry warehouse for 2 years, a construction site that never actually built anything the whole time I worked it, 6 months guarding an empty government building nobody could tell me the purpose of. I've never minded strange jobs. Strange jobs pay the same as boring ones, and at least you've got something to talk about after. Ward's Lake was supposed to be the boring one. That's honestly why I took it. Public park, day shift mostly, the odd closing round after dark. I remember thinking, walking in for the interview, that this had to be the easiest post in the whole city. Cut grass, lock gates, watch families feed fish. What's the worst that happens at a botanical garden? I actually said that to my mother. Word for word. What's the worst that can happen? She just looked at me. Didn't say anything. I understand that a lot better now than I did then. 30 years later, I'm writing tonight's shift up as my last one. And I figured, since nobody's going to believe half of what I've seen here anyway, I might as well just tell it the way it actually happened. Story by story, the way it came to me. Not all tidied up into one neat account. Kinsai trained me. Everybody called him Kin. Quiet man, 20 years on the post already by the time I showed up. Didn't waste words. First week, he just walked me the whole perimeter, told me where the drainage backed up, which gate stuck. Nothing strange. I liked him fine. My first solo December round, I heard 2 sets of footsteps behind me on the east path. Light, even. I turned around already talking, nobody there. Kept going for a couple seconds after I turned, though, which is the part that still gets me. Something brushed the back of my hand. Cold enough I pulled it away before I'd even decided to. I felt a sudden chill, and I ran into the shed. Told Kinsai the next morning, laughing about it. He didn't laugh, just looked at me a long second and said, "Sit down." We went into the shed. He made tea, didn't offer me any, which I've since learned means somebody's about to tell you something they don't enjoy telling. "There's a couple that walks that bridge," he said, like he was reading off an inventory list. "A couple? Ghosts, if you want the word for it." I laughed, genuinely laughed, sitting right there. He didn't react to that at all, which somehow made it worse than if he'd gotten annoyed. "I'm not asking you to believe it tonight," he said. "I'm asking you to remember it, so you're not running blind next time." That was Kin's whole style, I learned. He never sat you down for the big dramatic reveal. He just mentioned things plainly, the way you'd mention a broken step, and left you to decide what to do with it. Kin never sat me down for the next one either. It just came up. We were closing one night, doing the boat count together, and I said the numbers out loud, same as always. He didn't say anything at the time. Next week, doing it alone, I got to 6, and something on the far bank finished it for me. Same voice as mine, half a second behind. I told him. He didn't even look up from what he was doing. "Count in your head from now on," he said. "He can hear you." "Who's he?" "You'll know him eventually." That was it. Not a lesson, not a sit-down, just a correction, the same tone you'd use telling someone they'd filled out a form wrong. I've counted in my head for the better part of 30 years since, and I still don't fully know what I'm avoiding. That tea stuck with me longer than Kin probably meant it to. A few months later, curiosity got the better of me. There's an old records room behind the boathouse. Nobody's touched most of it in years. Half the folders are damp through. But I went looking one slow afternoon because I wanted to know if any of what Kin told me showed up anywhere official. Mostly it was maintenance logs, boring stuff, fence repairs, boat registrations, complaints about geese. Then I found a staff incident file from sometime in the 80s. The date's smudged. I've never been able to read it properly, no matter the light. One line, typed, no explanation attached. Employee reported unauthorized individual on bridge after hours. Search conducted. No individual located. Employee declined further night shifts. No name. No follow-up. Just that. Behind it, folded small, was a scrap of paper that didn't match anything else in the folder. Old, yellowed, torn at one corner. 2 words written on it in pencil, in handwriting that looked nothing like the typed forms around it. She's cold. I don't know who wrote it or why it ended up filed behind an incident report from 40 years ago. I put the folder back exactly where I found it, and I've never gone looking through that cabinet again. I asked Kin once, offhand, how the lake was actually built, genuinely just curious. There's a plaque by the gate with an officer's name on it, and that never seemed like the whole story to me. Not tonight, he said. I thought he was putting me off. He wasn't. Exactly 7 nights later, doing my round, I heard something dragging along the far bank. Metal on stone, slow, patient, coming from a stretch of shoreline with no fence, nothing that should have made that sound at all. Next morning, Kin told me the rest of it, the way you'd expect by now. Flat, unhurried, no drama in his voice at all, even though the story itself had plenty. The British wanted this hill country to feel like home, he said. Cool climate, green hills, close enough to what they'd left behind that they decided to build a proper garden here, the kind they'd have back in England. Prisoners did the digging. Local women carried water and stone alongside them, because a wage was a wage, and somebody still had to feed a house. Among the laborers was a woman named Kakit, and a man who loved her. Never got the chance to say so, Kin said, because it was around then the officer overseeing the project noticed her himself. Whatever happened between them after that, the laborer was left digging the same ground, watching it happen. He never left that lake. Some say exhaustion. Some say it wasn't an accident. Nobody's ever agreed. That's what drags the chain some nights, Kin told me. The tourists get the tragic officer's story. Nobody tells them the ground was carried there by people who loved things too, and lost them the same way, with nobody writing their names down for it. Not everyone's encounter here has been mine. Bah, Henry ran the boats for years before I did. One summer evening, no mist, no chill in the air at all. He saw a woman sitting at the water's edge, feet dangling toward the surface. He called out. No answer. Started walking toward her. The closer he got, he said, the colder the air turned until it wasn't cold anymore. It was pressure. Something wrapped around both his arms, pulling him forward faster than he meant to walk. His boots weren't fully touching ground for the last few steps, he swore. She was gone the second he was close enough to reach her. The pull let go so suddenly he fell forward, onto the exact spot she'd been sitting, which was warm, he said, in a season that should have made the whole bank warm anyway, except every other patch of that shoreline was ice cold to the touch. And there was my own trainee, years back. Banri. 19, confident, thought the whole thing was half made up, the way I once had. I let him take a solo round against my better judgment. He didn't come back on schedule. We found him almost an hour later near the tool shed, shaking hard enough his teeth were audible from 6 feet off. Radio in his hand, call button pressed all the way down, like he'd been holding it that way without ever managing to speak into it. 2 full days before he said a word. Even then, all he gave us was this. He'd seen a man near the boathouse. Not the couple, alone, dragging something metal behind him, like a chain, Banry kept saying, like he never got free of it. He quit within the week, never came back for his final pay. I left it with his mother. I hand this post over tomorrow to a young woman named Iban. Sharp, a little too fearless for my liking, the way I was before this place taught me otherwise. I told her all of it last week in the same shed Kin once sat me down in. She asked me if I actually believed it or if I was just being careful. I told her the truth. Belief's got nothing to do with it anymore. I've simply seen too much over too many years to call any of it nonsense now. Ward's Lake is still, genuinely, one of the loveliest places in this city, busier than it's ever been. And for most people walking through those gates, that's exactly how it should stay. Tonight, my last night, I did the round one final time. Locked the east gate a little earlier than the schedule requires, same as I always have. And right as the padlock clicked shut, I heard it. Faint from somewhere out past the boathouse. Not footsteps this time. Not the chain either. Just two voices. Low, unhurried, still going, like they had all the time left in the world to finish whatever they were saying to each other. I didn't look back. I never do. Old habit, I used to tell the new hires. It wasn't. But it was always easier to say that than the truth.